In this video tutorial, we're going to be creating a double exposure technique in Photoshop. And a double exposure technique is where we have a superimposition of two images to create a powerful single image, much like this one that we're looking at right here. And this technique is used pretty frequently in the media. It was in a recent Taylor Swift video, it's in the show opener for True Detective. And so we're going to be producing something that looks a little bit like this, or this, you're going to have an opportunity to pop in lots of different backdrops. And there's lots of applications in this process that we're going to learn, including layer masks. So how do we start? Well, you're going to need a selection of your individual, your subject, and I advise you to use channels, but you can use any selection method, and you're going to be putting it on a white backdrop. Great. So next step, what we're going to need to do is find the image that you're going to want to superimpose onto your portrait. I would advise you to Google maybe landscapes or beautiful environment or something like that. And when you've got it, you're going to press Command V and you're going to paste it on top of your subject. Maybe it's you. Beautiful. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on layer 1, I'm going to click on Mason, and I'm going to hold Command and left click on the thumbnail image. And when we do, we see a selection around the perimeter of this image. And so we're going to add a layer mask. To do that, we're going to click on our landscape layer, and I'm going to go to the bottom of the layers palette, and right next to the effects button, some students say it looks like the Japanese flag. I'm going to left click and add a layer mask. And so now when we take a look up here, we've got two little squares on this layers. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to left click that paperclip. And what that does is it means I can now move this independently, but we need to make sure that we've got this layer thumbnail selected. So I can now shift this around because we, again, unchecked that little paperclip and we selected the image itself. And so now I'm going to situate it in a way that I think looks pretty cool. I like that right there. Great. And let's jump down a layer. Let's go to layer 1. Let's press Command J. We're going to make a copy and drag it above the landscape layer. Now what we're going to do is desaturate it by pressing Command Shift U. And we're going to lighten the lights, darken the darks a little bit by pressing Command L to pull up layers, levels. And let's try that right there. We're going to pause. And we're going to change the blending mode from normal to multiply. Some of you guys might think it looks a little bit better with overlay, for example, but that's largely based on the landscape that you choose. Right now, I'm going to choose multiply, and I'm going to add another layers mask. So again, I'm going to go to the bottom of the layers palette, and I'm going to click right here, adding a layer mask. And what this does is it adds transparency to your image. And so white reveals and black hides. What I'm going to do right now is I want to sort of hide all this hair and his ears and his shirt. And so I'm going to pull up the paintbrush, and I've got black selected in the foreground. So I'm going to increase the diameter size, and I'm going to go along just the edge. And what we want to do is we want to sort of keep the sort of facial features, the eyes, the nose, the mouth, and I'm going just like that. And now check this out, guys. If we look in the layers palette, I can see that I'm on this layers mask, and I can see the areas that I'm hiding using the black paintbrush. And if you make a mistake and you go too far, let's say, we didn't want to get rid of the nose and the mouth, simply swap the foreground and the background. And if you have now white selected, you can bring it back pretty easily. So this is a great non-destructive way to hide aspects of the image that you want to conceal. Great. I would advise you also to probably reduce the hardness of your brush, so that makes it look a little bit more smooth. Great. And this looks like a pretty cool double exposure. I'm going to return to the move tool. I'm going to shift down a layer, and I'm going to maybe shift the scenery over a little bit. Yeah, I think that looks pretty cool right there. And then maybe when you click on the desaturated layer, you might want to drop the opacity a little bit. So let's say it's maybe at 79% or so. Now, one word of caution, this process works best when you're using backgrounds that aren't very busy, that are pretty evenly colored from one end to the other. I found that sunsets and skies work best. I would probably advise you guys against from using busy backgrounds like this skyline right here. So if I press Command V, and I took this on top of the Google building recently, What I'm going to do is I'm going to shift this down a layer, and I can hardly see the outline of his face. But again, I'm going to hold Command. Actually, I'm going to hold Command. I'm going to left click on the thumbnail on layer 1. I'm going to click on this city layer, and I'm going to add a layer mask. Great. I'm going to unclick this paperclip. Great. And I'm going to click on this image itself, the cityscape. And so now again, we can move it in a way that we want, but you'll notice that we no longer get the contrast of the eyes, the nose, and the mouth. So that might be a little bit problematic unless you pull it up in a way so it looks maybe a little something like that. And actually, that looks kind of cool right there. So I might actually reduce the size of this skyline to create something cool like that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I hope this was helpful and that you now are confident in creating double exposures.